Nancy Pelosi's tone-deaf let-them-eat-cake moment has been widely criticized, even made its way into a Trump campaign ad. Let's take a listen to that.
We turn now to that $350 billion fund to help small businesses and its workers get through the shutdown.
It will be up to Congress to restock it.
But Democrats blocking that move this morning.
They asked for $250 billion in 48 hours. I said, well, I don't think so. They objected, and I congratulate the Senate Democrats.
Speaker Pelosi, what are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate candy.
Thousands have been forced to wait for hours at food banks all across the country.
This is chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here. We just got it restocked, the ice cream.
All while new polling, though, shows Biden besting Trump among senior citizens. So what is the Trump campaign's plan of appeal there? For more on the strategy with seniors and that Pelosi ad, which we featured here on this show, Trump campaign's principal deputy communications director, Erin Perrine, joins us now via Skype. Great to have you, Erin.
Good to see you, Erin.
Thanks for having me.
What is the point you're trying to make with that ad? Look, I'll be honest with you. We've been critical of Pelosi here for that ice cream moment, which seemed to me to be a bit out of touch. But others may say, look, this is a small business. She's just showing what she's doing to get through the quarantine. Why blow this whole thing out of proportion? What's the strategy here?
Well, as you guys said earlier, this really was a very tone-deaf move by the speaker. We're looking at millions of Americans out of work, and she is sitting there in front of fridges that are quite expensive, not one, but two, and talking about ice cream and just kind of belittling the moment that exists right now in America. This is a serious situation, and we need serious leadership. Nancy Pelosi sitting there laughing and enjoying her ice cream instead of doing the work that needs to be done to make sure that small businesses can stay afloat, that people can get paid, and that resources are available. It was an incredibly tone-deaf moment by a tone-deaf speaker. She's done these kind of antics before where she thinks she's being cute and charming, and she's not. You saw her rip up the president's speech at the State of the Union. That's not serious leadership. This moment calls for serious leadership, and she's not showing it.
So one thing, though, Erin, that we're tracking here closely, we both, by the way, both completely agree with you on that moment on the ad as well. However, is that we've seen a slip in the amount of support that senior citizens have for the president in terms of, largely because they are afraid of coronavirus and opening up the economy too early. How is the campaign grappling with that? We, of course, saw the president's tweet this morning specifically talking to the senior citizenship issue. I suspect you probably saw the same polling. How are you thinking about it?
Well, the president, the coronavirus task force, and the CDC remain focused on those in vulnerable populations so that with the resources available, when states meet criteria to begin to start reopening, including readily available tests, that they protect vulnerable portions of society and keep those at the forefront. That's what the president is doing here. And so he wants to make sure that those who may be more susceptible to catching coronavirus or any illness, when they begin to reopen in their states by their state government's work, that they will be protected. It's always been a focus of the president, and he wants to make sure that that fact is getting out there.
And so on that issue of the coronavirus response, we've actually seen, this is according to a Morning Consult poll, overall approval of the president's response improving after it dipped earlier. But the trend is exactly reversed among seniors. Approval of his response is declining among that critical group. It's a group that he won by 7 points. Crucially, last election cycle now is underwater with that same group. Why do you think that that is?
Well, I think a lot of it is about getting the facts out there. People, especially seniors and those in a more vulnerable population, want to see their government protecting them. And there's no one out there protecting the American people more than President Trump. He says day in and day out and through action and word that the health and safety of the American people is his top priority. So you'll continue to see that. And listen, polling out this far, I mean, it's kind of a moot point at this point because we're so far from Election Day. And you can ask the pollsters in 2016 how that worked out for them. But let's remember, President Trump remains laser focused on the health and safety of the American people.
And so of course, we agree with you. We try to look at bigger trends here on our show. Erin, one of the things that we are focused on clearly is about how close things are in the battleground states. What do you think that the central message of the campaign is right now? Because, I mean, of course, with all the ongoing coronavirus crisis and all of this, some of the previous plans may not necessarily have been. This might be as close to a one-issue election that we ever have in American history. How is the campaign kind of grappling with that, and especially in some of these key areas?
Well, the message is clear. It is leadership. President Trump is leading America, not only through the coronavirus, but making sure when we come to the other side that America can begin to boom again. The only person that can rebuild the Trump economy that we saw before the coronavirus is President Trump himself. He's the one who's best equipped to show that his decades of signing the front of paychecks makes a difference to be able to get America moving again. Leadership. President Trump's leadership is what is getting America through this. It's why we saw what were supposed to be hugely predicted deaths in the United States at a much lower level. Any life lost is a tragedy, but President Trump has fought every day with true American leadership to protect every life he can.
And yet, if you ask Americans right now, they actually trust Joe Biden by larger margins in terms of just responding to coronavirus. President Trump tends to get better numbers on the economy, but specifically on coronavirus leadership, Joe Biden has been getting higher marks. Why do you think that is?
Well, Joe Biden's protected in the bunker of his basement in Delaware instead of actually having to lead through this crisis. It's easy to be in the cheap seats and be a Monday morning quarterback than it is to actually lead through a crisis. And let's remember, the Obama-Biden administration did not step up to replenish necessary supplies for a possible pandemic. N95 masks were depleted under the Obama-Biden administration. So it's really easy for Joe Biden to look like a leader, but his track record shows he is not a leader and certainly not equipped for a moment like this.
Well, we'll be tracking it closely. Erin, we appreciate your update from the campaign. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on Rising, new coronavirus relief bill has no oversight, nothing for states and cities, no food stamps, no limits on fossil fuel bailouts. May sound familiar. Great friend of the show, Cenk Uygur, weighs in on how the Democrats caved on that stimulus bill. That's next.